Welcome to the show.
Hell yeah, what's up?
Thanks for coming. So I should admit, we know each other and play music together.
That's true.
But the reason I wanted to have you on the show today is to talk about what's happening in the underground music scene, your involvement with different groups like that. So I want to ask first, so we know about punk as a genre of music and a culture.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it started, with bands like the New York Dolls and the Ramones and the Clash. And, it's had this whole history of being connected to anarchism and anti-fascism and different social movements on the underground. Of course, Turkey has a punk scene.
That's true.
And can you tell me a little bit about when it started? It's before your time. And
yeah, it is.
The bands were and the values of the scene.
It is. As far as I know, it started around late 80s, early 90s. And surprisingly, it didn't start around Kadıköy, which is the center for it right now.
Where was it then?
As far as I remember, it was mostly on European side, on neighborhoods like Martar, Bakırköy, Ataköy, Yeşilköy, Yeşilyurt. I mean, these are all these are information from the documentaries I've seen about, the rock scene, punk scene, and metal scene in general, because back then, it was all those communities were really small and they just used to stick together. Yeah.
And how about your involvement? When did it start for you?
I got involved naturally, I guess. I early on as a kid, I started listening to punk music, and then I think it was I was around 12 or 11 years old where I found out about Turkish punk music, because before that I used to think that I was so cool and I was the only person in Turkey, an 11-year-old kid who only knows about punk rock, and but apparently not. Apparently there was this whole scene. And I think, me finding out about it was 2012, but then me actually learning to play music and then just playing in the punk bands. I think it was around 2016. I could say.
Mm-hmm. And what was the scene like? You guys were also skateboarding and involved in stuff.
I mean, for me, it was I got in how can I say, as by chance or something, I guess, because I was a fan of Frozen Clouds. I knew them from the internet, and then I just met them. I had these questions for Luca about how you produce music or how you even get to play shows, because we were 16 and the bars were you can't play here. And I got in the band, and the first show that I played with Frozen Clouds was actually a punk festival. It was in Burgazada. And I saw the scene. I was 16. I was a kid. I didn't know anything. I just thought, these dudes are just here to play, and then they're gonna go home. These people know each other. But
it's a whole community, right?
Yeah. I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it until I was I could say I was 17, 18. Before that, it was just going to a bar and just playing a show, and then just the homies would show up and just play to them, But then we grew up. I kind of grew up, and then I realized, wow, there's more to this. It's not even just only punk.
What else is there?
There's lots of different cultures, different subcultures in Istanbul, or generally in Turkey, I would say. After the punk scene, I found out about the metal scene, rock scene, the electronic music scene, bass music, the queer scene, and all that. So I would say there's a lot of different subcultures and a lot of different colors around.
Absolutely, yeah. And in terms of those cultures and the community, I know you're involved, like I said, with Hoodbase.
Yeah.
This space in Kadıköy, and there's also Gaia, which is an art collective.
Yes, sir.
What kind of stuff do you guys do?
Well, in Gaia, I would say I started Gaia, so I think I I could be able to explain it a little bit better.
Yeah.
We started Gaia back into 2020, and we were only just I was rapping then, and we were just a few rappers just trying to book shows and stuff. And some of the homies were we should have a name. Something should be representing us, or we should be representing something. And then the name just came along, and then we just started, we just played that show, and the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, actually, that was when Gaia became Gaia, because we couldn't play shows, we couldn't book anywhere. So we just found a way to put some music, book some exhibitions, book artists, and just book some musicians or DJs in there. And that's how it started. It started as us just trying to help the, creative scenes in Turkey, just helping them to, basically be themselves and do whatever the hell they want.
Definitely.
Can I say hell?
You can.
All right, cool.
wanted to ask about Second. So Second is a well-known punk band for people who know the punk scene in Turkey.
Yes.
And I think you listened to them as a teenager and now you play guitar for them.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me about what that's like?
That's like a dream come true. It's like 1 in a million thing that hit me because I was 12 when I found out about them. I found out about them through a skate clip that one of my friends from middle school shot. And I heard the song in the back and I was like, what is this? And then he was like, this is a band called Second, like a punk band called Second. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta, listen to this. And then I got into it and, it was just like everything that I wanted to hear because I was 12 and I was angry. And, I was like a different kid because I had like these different interests, compared to like my classmates or like schoolmates. So, it was just mind blowing to me. And, time passed, I think, 10 years passed. And then, I met Parham A.G through one of my really beloved close friends, Taner Yücel. And he introduced us in one of his Özgün's shows. And I met him, it was really nice. And then, we kept on contact. I had this radio show that was talking about punk scene, in Turkey. And I invited them over for it. And then we talked about, everything that I wanted to know basically when I was a kid. And, after that, he just asked me if I wanted to be in the band because they were reuniting. And I was like, I'm not gonna say no to that.
Of course.
And, it was a really big dream come true. Like, if you ask the 12-year-old Parham, if do you imagine anything like that? Because I didn't even play music back then. So, just growing up, picking up an instrument and then just playing with your heroes.
Definitely.
It's really fun. And one of the other things is that the last time Second played a show, I was 17, I was still underage. And I didn't get to see them live ever. So the first time, a Second show was happening that I was old enough to see was that I was on stage. So, basically I couldn't get to see it, but, we got to see it. So,
Yeah, and you guys go on tour, right? You gone to Ankara and Izmir, and there's fans all over.
Tour. Yeah, it's so crazy, man. It's these fans are all over and they're so into it. I mean, I understand because I was just like them. Because Second is one of those bands where you're you find out about it and then you see how relatable it is. And then it's just even if you don't listen to it on a regular basis, it's in your heart. So these kids are just like that. They come, they just bring all these love, all this positive energy. Sometimes they even bring gifts, they make artworks and stuff like that. And there's actually, they're actually a really big community on our Discord channel. These kids are just doing everything by themselves, just organizing everything and just coming to see us every chance they get. And I think that's really lovely, to see all that and, to see all those kids because, I used to be one of them and now,
That's what I wanted to say. You talked about how you felt like an outsider. You were different than other kids around you.
Yeah.
And these kids also, they find community with the music.
Exactly. So, just even not even being a part of that, just even seeing it, witnessing it, I think it's it's really good to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes me believe in a lot of things. It makes me believe in myself. It makes me believe in the future and the kids and, music. It connects me through music a lot more than I already am.
Definitely. And so speaking of music, you also have a solo project, I know, and you're putting out your own music under your own name. Can you tell me about the project, what you're trying to do?
It started out as me, I used to write these songs. I bought myself an acoustic guitar. I was in America. I bought myself an acoustic guitar and I started writing these stupid songs. And from there, it just kind of turned into this thing where I could I learned how to play all the instruments that I wanted to play. And it started as me just writing these songs on acoustic guitar and singing them with 3 or 2 chords or whatever. And then now I can just produce, arrange, write, I don't know what you say, just write these songs that I want to hear. It's punk, but I try to put something from myself and, I try to do what I like to hear. And I gathered all these old songs that I made. And I used to record, I would literally just grab my guitar, put my phone on a bookshelf and just press record from the phone and just sing. And I recorded them in the studio back in 2019 and then we released it as a whole acoustic album. And then I went and made an album called Orange Avenue, which was my first full band songs that I put my heart out into, as a adulter version of myself, a little bit older. It was a coming of age album for me. I started writing it when I was 17, and I released it when I was 18, no, 19. Yeah. I released it when I was 19. But yeah, after then the pandemic hit, we didn't get to do anything. A lot of people didn't get to do anything. So just kind of stayed there. I wrote like 3 albums and 2 EPs, like 40 songs or something. And then there was so much that, you know, I just wasn't sure what to do with them until now. 3 weeks ago, my life changed.
What happened?
Yeah, I was hanging out with my friends, and one of the friends called me. He was like, "Hey man, do you want to record? Like, hang out?" I was like, "Sure." I went to the studio, we recorded a song, and now we're like out of nowhere. We're just recording. We're gonna shoot a music video on Sunday for it, and you know, we're gonna hopefully release it on January. But yeah, like to answer your question on a general basis, where it is going is that I'm trying to write these punk songs that kids could relate to, because I used to be a kid, kind of still am. And, you know, I know that if I feel something through this music, I know some kids are going to feel the same. And I'm just trying to find them and reach them and just, you know, let them know that it's going to be all right, I guess. I don't know. I'm not trying to dramatize what I'm not trying to dramatize it right now. Just wait until it drops, I guess.
Definitely, yeah. And you've really come a long way from, you know, recording with just the telephone on the bookshelf to now learning how to do production.
Yes.
And I know you've worked, you know, you're working with different, even people in rap and other people who want to use live instrumentation, because you can play drums, you play bass, you play guitar.
That's true.
And I'm curious about the kind of way that the mainstream often pulls from more underground scenes.
Yes.
So for example, even the pop star Elena Tilki recently did a song that was a little bit punk inspired.
Yes.
Do you see this stuff from the underground going into the mainstream? Is there potential there?
All the time. I know people who, even myself, I know people who are like making really badass music in the underground scene, and they're trying to go mainstream. And I know some people who are already mainstream who are kind of really influenced by the underground music or like punk music or, you know, anything punk related. And I see the crossover, but I feel like this crossover is like, you know how like history repeats itself? This always happens. This happened with Limp Bizkit. This happened with, I mean, right now it happened because of Machine Gun Kelly. I'd say Machine Gun Kelly dropping like 2 pop-punk albums, making them both #1, and just punk kids just being like, maybe we could do it too.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, before that, you know, MTV, I would say, brought the whole thing. And I think it's just like this wave that comes and goes, and people just get influenced by it. And I love it because I get to work with celebrity artists sometimes, and, you know, people who I wouldn't think that they would be interested.
Yeah.
And I get inspired from them. They get inspired from me, or like, you know, whatever we put out together. And, you know, it's just really nice to, you know, witness this transition or like this new wave that is coming in the future, like in a few months, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. There's new stuff coming to Turkish music, you know, and especially pop music is being influenced.
Yeah, that's true.
And last of all, do you have any concerts coming up, places where people can watch you?
Yeah, we have a show on 21st of January in Medyascope. It's going to be a second show, the band second. And it's going to be, how do you say, it's going to be all ages.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, we're expecting...
So even the kids can come?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
We're expecting all the street boys.
All right.
Or whatever, you know. No, cut that out. Expecting everybody.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Parham, for coming on the show. It was great chatting.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I don't know what to say.